Now, members of Parliament are concerned about the delays in rebuilding Parliament following the devastating fire in January last year. The National Assembly Speaker says the delay is mainly due to the police handling Parliament as a crime scene for 6 months. Funds for the repairs were also assigned in November. Rubble from the site is only set to be removed in the coming days. Let's get more on the restoration process from Public Works and Infrastructure Minister Patricia De Lille. Thank you so much for your time, Minister. We do appreciate it. I do understand that members of Parliament argued this past week about the delay that's around restoring a National Assembly. Maybe if you can just tell us exactly what is causing this delay.
There's certainly been no delay on the side of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. The fire happened on the 2nd of January 2022. Thereafter, the Hawks and the police came in and the whole site was declared a crime scene. As the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, we appointed an outside entity, KUGA, to do the cost for us of repairs, the time of repairs. And that report was presented to Parliament on the 27th of May 2022. Thereafter, Parliament went on a recess. And when Parliament came back from recess, Parliament only convened a meeting on the 23rd of September 2022. In that meeting, as Public Works, we were instructed not to proceed with anything until we get direction from Parliament. Parliament convened the next meeting on the 3rd of March 2023. But we all need to work together. We have presented our reports to Parliament. National Treasury has allocated 2 billion towards the repairs of Parliament. So National Treasury, Parliament, and ourselves, we will work together. In terms of the legal process that I'm currently busy with, Heidi, is that I have to devolve the powers to repair and do the reconstruction of Parliament in terms of Section 18 of the Government Immovable Asset Management Act. I have to devolve that power to Parliament because DPWI is the custodian. We are in the process of doing that. We also have received a request from Parliament to give the custodial powers, the complete run and the building over to Parliament in terms of Section 19 of the Government Immovable Asset Management Act. And we're also busy with that. So the delay has not been caused by any slow response. Even Public Works, when we entered the building to do the first assessment, we had to do so under the guidance and the protection of the South African Police Services and the Hawks. So we've really worked as fast as we can, Heidi. And I can see now on Monday, that's tomorrow, we hope to hand over the building to Parliament. Parliament has appointed the Development Bank of Southern Africa on behalf of Parliament to do the restoration work. And so tomorrow we will be doing that. Once we have signed and the Speaker has signed, then Parliament can proceed with their project. And then Parliament will then be accounting to South Africans about the progress of the restoration of Parliament.
So, Minister, I just want to get clarity from you. Of course, there was a lot of frustration and concern raised in that parliamentary meeting with opposition parties and members of Parliament, of course. Do you think that their concerns are warranted? Because you've just explained quite a lengthy process, and it's not just as easy as locating money and then rebuilding and restoring the National Assembly, given the extent of damage caused by that fire. But do you think their concerns are warranted?
Well, I think I have advised the members of parliament to read the Government Immovable Asset Management Act of 2007. They can familiarize themselves with the legal processes. We don't want the Auditor General to come in the end and say this was irregular expenditure. Public Works is the custodian of government immovable assets, and therefore a parliament as the tenant in one of our buildings need to get permission from the landlord to then do some repairs on the building. So we must get the legal framework right, and that will be concluded by tomorrow, the 6th of March.
Okay, Minister, I want to ask you, is it still going to cost about 2 billion rand to restore Parliament? And is it still going to take 2 years?
Well, the report that we had presented to Parliament on the 27th of May from Kucha Development, they have estimated and projected a 2.2 billion rand spent. They divided it into an 18 months repair for the old assembly and the link, and then another 2 years for the new wing, the new assembly. It seems that the Development Bank of Southern Africa has been able to truncate the timelines as projected by Kucha, and the Development Bank of Southern Africa now estimated it can take 2 years. But they will start with the old assembly wing to make that usable for Parliament while the work is continuing on the new wing. So we've got faith that the Development Bank will move with speed, and that the Secretary of Parliament and the presiding officers of Parliament will now have oversight over DBSA.
And Minister, just for clarity purposes, is it correct that the rubble, so basically the actual sites of the National Assembly and the parts that were burnt, will be handed over to the developer, and the rubble will start being moved out now? So they'll probably start working on it in the next couple of days. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. There's also a lot of rubble still inside the burnt buildings, and that rubble must also be removed. So once we have signed the legal framework with Parliament, DBSA will be able to start their procedures and appoint their service providers to come and remove the rubble, not only outside but also inside Parliament. But we will give, and I'm sure the Speaker and the presiding officers will give regular updates, Heidi, on the progress that we are making. We can fully understand the frustration of members of Parliament that they are not able to meet physically. And therefore, we have looked at floors 8 to 14 in 90 Plain Street to clear that site for members of Parliament that they can use as offices. In the meantime, we do have a current tenant there, and we're working with Parliament to make that space available for members of Parliament.
Okay, great. And just off topic, Minister, there's a cabinet reshuffle that's set to take place tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Are you at all worried?
No, not at all. You know what? It is the prerogative of the president. We serve at his pleasure. I've never planned to become a minister. I've been asked to serve as a minister, and I can serve my country in any capacity. And as usual, I have just worked very hard, and it's up to the president to decide, but I will be happy with any decision that he finally comes up with. Thank you, Heidi.
Great. Thank you so much for your time this evening, Minister. We do appreciate it. That was Minister Patricia De Lille, who is with the Public Works and Infrastructure. Now, still to